Hello, my favorite Algebra 1 students. I wanted to make a video on solving systems and equations using substitution. A lot of you this is really starting to click for, and hopefully tonight's homework kind of gives you that extra practice. But if you are still struggling or just want to check to make sure you're doing it right, then you can use this video. So I want to start with question number 3 on tonight's homework. We've got y equals negative 3x plus 5 and 5x minus 4y equals negative 3. So our first equation, the y equals negative 3x plus 5, is already written so that we have the y by itself. Because remember, we want one equation that is either y equals everything else or x equals everything else. So we have that already. So y is equal to negative 3x plus 5. So they're equal, which means that I can rewrite my second equation, the 5x minus 4y equals negative 3. I can rewrite that, but I can substitute the 3x, or negative 3x plus 5 for y. So instead of having 5x minus 4 times y, I have 5x minus 4 times negative 3x plus 5 equals negative 3. So all I did was I rewrote my second equation, but I replaced y with negative 3x plus 5 because that first equation told me that they're equal. So now I have an equation where I only have one variable, which means I can solve it and figure out what x is. So I'm going to do that first by, I need to distribute. So I've got 5x, and I'm distributing negative 4, so negative 4 times negative 3x is positive 12x. Negative 4 times positive 5 is minus 20. And then I have equals negative 3. So I'm going to combine my like terms. 5x plus 12x is 17x minus 20 equals negative 3. So I want to get x by itself. So I'm going to add 20 to both sides, which gives me 17x. I'm going to write a little bit smaller here. 17x equals negative 3 plus 20 is 17. So this should be a nice easy whole number. We divide both sides by 17, we get x equals 1. So we have half of our answer, because remember the solution to a system of equations is going to be a point. So we need an ordered pair with an x value and a y value. So our ordered pair, we know our x is 1, we still don't know what our y is. But we can figure that out by plugging in x equals 1. We can use the value 1 for x in our first equation. You can do it in either equation, but I always pick the easier one. It has less steps to solve. So my y, I want to find out what y is equal to negative 3x plus 5. I can rewrite that as y equals negative 3 times 1, since I know that x is 1, plus 5. So y equals negative 3 plus 5, which is 2. So y equals 2. So now that I know my y value, I can finish my ordered pair. So my answer, the solution, is at point 1, 2. Okay, number 5 I want to do with you because it's one of those questions that's so easy it's hard, if that makes sense. So we have, our first equation is y equals negative 2. And then we have 4x minus 3y equals 18. So we already have our first equation set up as y equals something. In this case, it's y equals negative 2. It's okay that there's not an x in there. It's actually going to make things a little bit easier for us. So we are going to substitute negative 2 where y is into our second equation. So we have 4x minus 3, instead of saying times y, we're going to put in negative 3 times negative 2 is equal to 18. So we need to simplify and solve this. So we get 4x, and then negative 3 times negative 2 is going to be positive 6. So we need to subtract 6 from both sides. And we get 4x equals 18 minus 6 is 12. We divide both sides by 4 to get the x by itself. We get x equals 3. So ordinarily, we would have to go back in and plug in 3 into one of our equations, but the part that makes it easy is we're already told what y is equal to. Y is negative 2, because they told us that in the very first equation. So our answer is our ordered pair, with 3 is our x value, and negative 2 is our y value. So our solution is at point 3, negative 2. All right, and the last example I want to do is number 9, because I know that it is just a little bit harder. So number 9, we have negative 5x plus y equals negative 2, and we have negative 3x plus 6y equals negative 12. So in this case, neither one of these equations is set up where we have x equals something or y equals something. So we have to rewrite one. And the one I want to pick is one of the equations that has a variable without a coefficient in the front, because I don't want to have to end up dividing by anything. So I'm going to look at this very first equation, and I have y, which does not have a coefficient in front of it. So I'm going to get y all by itself by adding 5x to both sides, which means I can rewrite that equation as y equals 5x minus 2. So now I have an equation where y is something else. So I can substitute, if y is equal to 5x minus 2, I can substitute the 5x minus 2 and put it in where y is in our second equation. So if I rewrite the second equation, I'm going to have negative 3x plus 6, and instead of times y, I'm going to replace y with 5x minus 2 equals negative 12. So I need to simplify and solve. So I'm going to distribute that 6. So I've got negative 3x, and then 6 times 5x is plus 30x. 6 times negative 2 is negative 12. That's not a good sign. We'll be done before that. So negative 3x plus 30x minus 12 equals negative 12. So we're going to combine our like terms, and we get 27x minus 12 equals negative 12. I'm going to add 12 to both sides. So I have 27x equals 0. To get the x by itself, I divide by 27. And x divided by anything, or sorry, 0 divided by anything, even 27, is still just 0. So x is equal to 0. Now that doesn't mean that it's a no solution or all solutions or anything weird like that. It just means that in our ordered pair, the x value is 0. So we can still find our y value the same way we've been doing by plugging in 0 for x. And we can do that here in our rewritten first equation, just because that's the easiest one. So we have y equals 5 times x. So we can use 5 times 0 minus 2 y equals 0 minus 2, so y equals negative 2. So now that we know our y, our answer is our solution is at the point 0, negative 2. So that is 3 of the 10 questions on tonight's homework. So hopefully everybody has those done and understands them. We will have just a little bit of time before class to go over this and any last minute questions you have, and then we have our quiz. So have a great night studying.